Vicky, I think a first place to start our conversation is I want to start with fishing. So talking about obviously your dad that ran a fishing company and what was involved in the space. So curious about any lessons that your dad gave you about entrepreneurship, about running a company.
I think that the best lesson my dad gave me is about starting his company. Back in the days, he had like a great job at the mine, but he couldn't bear having buses over him, and he was always dreaming of becoming a fisherman. But at that time, everybody were so poor, like fishermen were very poor, and it was very intriguing that he was looking this way while he had a great job. But my mom was in love with him, and they were a young couple with very young kids, and it was his dream. So he left his job at the mine and started to be a boating inspector across Quebec. So he would inspect the boats on the behalf of the government to make sure everything was fine. And he was gathering some intel on how the boat were made at the same time. And he was gathering intel on the docks about what was the upcoming fish and trends and so on. So he was seeing, I think it was in New Brunswick at the time, that the crab fishing was something that was going to happen very soon and starting, and that the Japanese clients were crazy about it. And at that time, in the early 80s, the fishermen would just throw the crab back to the water because it was like a sea spider, they would call it, on the way it looks. So he came home. He came back home and started to build a boat in our backyard, telling my mom that he was becoming a fisherman in the crab industry, and she was like, "Oh, okay, right." It was very special. We were they were like in debts because of the high interest rates on the house that was like 90%, 19% at the time. And But they were in love, and he was working super hard. So one day he put that boat in the water. He goes fishing, and he doesn't know how to do it, and he wouldn't ask the other people because he was too embarrassed and wanted to do his own thing. In my mind, he lost a bit of time there, but still. And then there was no buyers. Like, Japanese people would not go on the North Shore, 14 hours drive from Montreal to to seek for new suppliers. So there were no buyers, no fish. So he kept his stubborn mind and continued to develop. And one day the Japanese came, and he started to sell crab, and it did great money out of it. And he was smart because he was looking at all the cycle of the other fishes. So when the halibut was going down, the stocks, it would come back after 7 years and so on. And he noted all of that. So whenever the fishes were low, like lobsters, people would get rid of their permits because they were not seeking long term. So he started to buy all the permits of everyone on the different fishes. So unfortunately, he passed. That's 15 years ago, but by the time he passed, he had the permits on every type of fishes. He has built this great company with his team of fishermen and so on. So, but I saw my dad working hard from a very young age. He would drive me to the fish market, and I would see him negotiate the price and so on. I was like 5 years old, so I was always around the ducks, always hearing about money, negotiating, and so on. So I guess that played a role in my life and in my entrepreneur spirit also. He always told me that there was nothing impossible if you put in the hours and the efforts. That sometimes it can take you 4 more years than somebody else, but if it's physically possible to do something, I should be able to do it also. So I think that's where I took my confidence, I guess.
That's such a great story. It's almost like Forrest Gump movie type story,
Oh
right?
no.
Like I was gonna say, like in your short intro or like the short story, I think you basically gave the whole story of what is an entrepreneur. It's like timing of the market, hustle and hard work, product market fit. There's just so many lessons, that I think you basically shared from your dad. That
And to this point, I feel like when we see successful stories, we think it's about magic. But from a very younger age, I knew there was all that was coming before that moment when we started to go to Disneyland. Like, I remember as a kid that I was not thinking I was going to Disneyland anytime soon.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's so much crap before it's, the 10 years before of, to make an overnight success, right? So it's kind of similar to your story, right? Like you guys have built a pretty strong agency. It's starting to win big brands and bigger brands from what we were talking about right before we were recording.
Yeah.
So it's been 15 years. So congrats on the 15 years. I think your dad would have been proud if he'd see the
Oh,
scale of your agency.
would be so.
Maybe just explain what is bicom. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so basically, I co-founded the agency with my friend Marie-Noelle Hamelin. I was working with her at another agency. Actually, I was a very highly motivated intern because I was her intern in another business, and then she decided to leave. So I left with her as we became friends very early too, and we were very complementary. She was coming from the communications field. I was coming from marketing. So I wanted to measure everything that we were doing. At that time, PR was more about throwing parties and getting the right people to those parties and so on. But it's always we started to measure with my marketing classes fresh out of school. I started to measure everything that we were doing in terms of some kinds of KPIs. I would put advertising value on the people that we were sponsoring with T-shirt whenever we would see them on TV and so on. So I was going on the Chabanel Street in those warehouses with all my dashboards and report, and nobody would care, but I was still very excited by my reports. So it really placed us early on in a space where we were pushing traditional PR to another extent in terms of gathering more visibility and making our clients shine in different ways as possible. So very early on, continuously gaining organic PR coverage for our clients, we started to dig into influencer marketing. I would say we were one of the first Canadian agency to develop this practice more seriously. We did a guru campaign in 2010 where we were sending guru cases to influencers in their own sectors. We had a post from Chuck Hughes in his kitchen with the product. He had 42,000 followers on Twitter at the time. Twitter was very hot. And also the guys from Frank and Oak here in the Milan, they were starting their company on the corner of a table with the product and they were posting. And we created this hype and we were like, oh my God, we haven't paid anyone. We're everywhere. The client was super happy because they had little budget, but tons of products. So it was about putting the products into the hand of the right people. So we started to dig into that and to always keeping in mind to measure what we were spending and what we were doing in terms of visibility and after that we started to create content digging more into the community management and those types of digital services and now we're an integrated communication agency that caters to national in Canada. We're starting to do some work in the US as well by ourselves and with some partners. And yeah, that's super exciting because we are in an industry that evolves so much that there's so many opportunities. It's very, very exciting.
Yeah, I
Yep.
was going to say that the field of marketing is obviously just expanding in so many different areas. And yeah, and congrats on your growth as you celebrate, I guess, 15 years, if I'm not
Great.
mistaken, this year. Maybe
Yes.
if have you taken a chance to zoom out and say, okay, like it's been 15 years, it's kind of a big milestone. Have you taken a chance to zoom out and think about some of the principles of like, hey, what has it taken to build your agency to where it is today? Have you had that chance, or is it it's been a little bit hard to like look at the forest, let's say?
Yeah, but I think it's whenever you run a business, it doesn't matter the size of it. You need to take a step to step back and look at your business. And I think this is my role in the company with my partner, but I take it very seriously as I feel I'm responsible for the vision and where we're heading. And to be able to do that, I need to be out of the company sometimes and book some time for thinking and book some time. I call it my high altitude time, and then I go back in low altitude and I I need to extend fires and like get things done. But I think I started to do that after 10 years. I think that after 10 years, I had the luxury and the team in place to take a step back and be able to do that exercise not just once a year, but every quarter. And now I save thinking time every week if it's for reading books, if it's for reading that article that I thought was interesting, if it's to take a coffee with someone in a totally different industry, because I'm a uber curious person. I like to learn about tons of things, and then it's all mixed up in my brain, and I think of new ideas for our clients. But I would like visit a petroleum factory in the east of Montreal because I want to know how plastic is made. And that guy is super nice, and he shows me how he does all the garbage plastic cans, and that is his business is super huge. Is selling all the Walmart cart in the US. That's him, and nobody knows about him. So all about entrepreneurship, businesses, and different industries. That's what I'm fond of. So in order to do that without screwing all the daily tasks that I have to do, I'm trying to book time for this type of thinking. And I'm a continuous learner. I like to take class. So I take class online at night on Sunday nights. Now it's so easy.
Yeah. What's the last class you took out of curiosity?
Now I'm following this class. It's from Yale. It's about the psychology of happiness and how we rewire, not rewire our brain, but how we think. One great example is sometimes we were stressed and we think that if that happened, our reaction will be this and will last that long. But in fact, it never lasts that long and it's never that bad. So it's about finding and to be happy and feel good, finding what really has an impact on you personally and save time to do those types of things. I discovered myself that I need to be surrounded by beauty. I thought it was super shallow and I was ashamed about it, but I love to get dressed. Not today, I just got back from the gym, but and I like to go to exhibits. I need to go at the museum because this is nourishing my creativity and this is making me feel good. And so now that Yale told me it's fine, I'm booking some time to to just to be surrounded by beauty and by experiencing things with art. And I feel it's legitimate because I need that to perform.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's such a great lesson, right? Like, I still feel like I'm learning that one where it's like having your own company is like you learn more about yourself than anything else, right? Like what you don't like. It's like a journey of self discovery. After these years, has it gotten? Do you find it's gotten easier, harder, or like where's the difficulty changed over time?
I think it's like having kids. I have two young kids, and my older friends. I have a lot of friends in their 50s, and they always say, "Small kids, small problem; big kids, big problems." But by the time you get there, you'll know. So I always think about the same for a company. And my husband has his own for 2 years now, and sometimes he gets back home and is super. He has a challenge and is super stressed about it. And I'm like, you know what? After you'll face it twice, it'll just be like routine. So I think it doesn't, and that's why I still love my job. Is that as we're growing, it's getting more difficult. The challenges are bigger, but I feel stronger, and I have the team also to face those. We're not alone anymore, and that's a huge difference. Like having a partner in business for me is the key of our success, like because I would be at the bar drinking and telling everybody like all my great ideas, but nothing would happen. I'm making like a big caricature, but my partner she's more operational. She's okay, you want to do this is how we're going to do that. That's not how my brain works. So we need to be together, and that's the I think that's the 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 luck that we have is that we found each other, and I don't want her job and she doesn't want mine
Yeah.
at all.
It's good. Yeah, it's good to know what you're good at, like your circle of competence, what you like doing, what you're good at doing, and like I think it's kind of the key, the key secret to a success, right? To a partnership. I mean, you spoke about some partners and teams. Have you ever like discussed with your partners like what would the next evolution of bicom be? Like, would you ever like if would you entertain an acquisition for like for instance like if someone approached you guys like have you looked at that? Have you? I'm guessing investment has always been kind of a consideration as well.
So when we started the business, we were young, we were having fun, and it was all about growing organically. And a few years from now, we started to work on a strategic plan, which I loved because I love to be more in the macro than in the having in the small nitty details. So from there, we had a vision that was clearer. But while all this happened, we were approached by bigger groups as we were starting to win business against them. They were like, "Were they? We want
Who are
to
these two girls? Yeah.
exactly. So let's try to buy them." So we passed on opportunities to join some other groups and to be, um, but as well. And we decided that we wanted to start our own international network. That's how I work. If I'm not, if I'm not, if you, I don't think you're doing it well, then I'll try to do it myself by myself in a different way. So we're what we want to do is expanding on the international level and be able to deliver a client in, let's say, 10 countries. The business model of that is not settled 100% yet. For North America, we were already in Toronto. We want to open in the US in 3 to 5 years. For the other offices, the way we see it is maybe having some equity in business, but I want the entrepreneurial leaders to remain owners.
Present. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because I don't want to kill that flame. I think that if you kill the entrepreneur's flame, it's you're just gonna do the same as the other, and you're gonna. It's another vibe. So, and all of these different business within under the same umbrella, we would put let's say a percentage of our revenue in the holding not upstairs, but above us, and from there we could invest in R&D. I could send some of my employees doing an internship in another country of the group. We would deliver a client seamlessly in different countries altogether. We could share our best practice. That's a kind of collaboration that I would love to have with those other offices. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that vision. I love that vision, right? So it's like it's really a go big, go home, right? Where it's like, sure, Mr. and Mrs. Agency hold call. Thank you for the offer, but I think we'll do it ourselves. I love that.
I sent my. I was. I lost a great opportunity lately, and I was very sad, and I had a hard time to get over it. And I sent my partner this week a kind of a cheesy quote, but it was like, "To all the doors that were closed to me, I'm coming back and buying the building." I sent it to her. She's like, "Oh my god, you're back. That's so you."
I love that. I love that chutzpah, as they say. You also, I think I read that you guys last month announced that you will be guaranteeing your results. So I was curious to hear you. What does that mean? And like knowing a little bit of the agency world seems very anathema to to that space.
Yes, that's pretty bold. Actually, in the last 15 years, I would say that 95% of the time, we always deliver the results. So, and that comes from a different types of factor. Are we the right fit to take on this account or not? Or do we have the right team to put on it? Are the KPIs something feasible and so on? So that's how we work. So we decided to make a statement, and for punctual projects, not on retainer because the math doesn't apply, but we guarantee a result. So when we sign the contract with the client, we say we're gonna have that amount of impression, we're gonna have this number of hit, we're gonna have that rate of engagement rate, da da da, and there's a grid, and there's the first payment, and then there's a grid, and depending on how accurately we hit the KPI, the last invoice is what it's supposed to be, or it's less.
Oh wow, wow. That's yeah. Like goes back to being courageous. I'm like you're putting your P&L on the line here for.
But you know what? That will force us to work with clients that are a right fit. That will force us to set KPIs that we think are achievable, but still are very ambitious. So it defines our entrepreneurial spirit. And one thing I like to say when we work with clients is we always work with them as we would have 10% of their shares. We care as if it was our business. So we want them to succeed. For us, this state of mind is super important because the day you care less about your client, you're not gonna do the little extra wow or the little extra efforts that changed the whole game. And we know the type of impact with our work we can have with clients. We can, if you're on the news at night, the day after, all of your things can be sold out. Like we can have a crazy impact on business, and we're conscious of that.
Yeah, I love that. And like, I'm going to steal that. Like, care as if you're an owner, right? Like,
Yeah.
and trying to spread it across the entire organization, right? Particularly, it's super important in a service firm. Not that it's not important in a product company, but you're an agency, so you act as an agent on behalf of the customer, right? So the reason they stick around and you retain them is because of the quality of the work, right? So I think the foundation there is caring, right? You
Yeah.
have to want to help.
And I think that because we're entrepreneurs and we're not owned by a big group and we're not just like another satellite office, we care about how we spend our clients' money. Like we know what 50,000 is worth. We know what those type of budgets are worth. So we want to give results for that type of money. We know there's a value attached to it. It's just not a random number.
Yeah, yeah, it's right. Like you manage the P&L, you're like, I know what a dollar, the worth of a dollar. Maybe talk about just the agency space. It's like I said, it was a world that I'm out of, but still a little bit, like try and peek in once in a while. um, you seem to have taken a shift more towards influencer marketing, right? In the past few years, and particularly seem to be accelerating. So curious as to like what exactly are you offering in that space? What do you think of the influencer economy? Let's say. So curious to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so it's been around forever. When Marilyn Monroe was going to bed with a drop of Coco Chanel, she was an influencer. Like so, it makes me laugh when people think it's very new. It's always been around, and I'm sure like the Greeks had their influencers. And
We invented the influencer market.
we're in a road like this. We should try it. Like so, it evolved very quickly. So I think that it's kind of shifting, and what's interesting is that now the consumer, they know what influencer are about, they know they're paid, so there's a skepticism that is more present. So it needs to be done very refined. We need to find people that are really on brand. We need to vet a ton of criteria prior to start a collaboration with someone. Whereas is to look at who they work with in the past, or are they very aligned with the brand, or do they have skeletons that they're riding that are about to come out anytime soon. So for with the regular influencer, I'd say that what changes it's very about all of those criteria to look at. The rates, of course, have been going crazy, but we understand it's a business, so totally respect the contracts and all the money exchange there. What we're looking into, and that is super exciting for me, and it's my second or my fourth babies, depending on how you count, become being my first, and my two beautiful daughters, my second and third, is a B Nation. Actually, I was thinking about that. People are getting more and more conscious about influencers and what they really think, and uh, the brands are there. They want to connect with the consumers. Is there a new way to get that goo-hoo moment, haha, where people would get a product and be super excited about it? So we decided to create B Nation, which is a community of nano influencers. So it's regular people, 3,000 followers and less. Sweet spot is around 1,000 followers and less. So there are people that are super engaged with their friends, family, colleagues, that are active on the social networks, and we engage them in our campaign. So now we have a database of 1,000 of Canadians. We know if they have cats, dogs, acne. We have 100 vegan, 75% that are lactose intolerant. We have a lot of information about them. They're sharing it with us on a totally trust basis. Like we're not stalking anyone. We just they give us their information on their free will, and we send them products and they try it and they share their comments, and it's so the content that they're creating is so interesting. It's beautiful. We just did a campaign for Vichy with them. Mom and their daughters. We needed to talk about menopause on the internet, and nobody wanted to talk about that. Like the moms were like, no, and the daughters were like, no. But we created a conversation between daughters and their moms, because we're all gonna get there if you're a female. Like, that exists and that affects your skin and so on. And that campaign went super well. The content was beautiful, and we did a webinar for the public, not solely for a journalist or influencer. And I think there was 300 people that logged in to learn more about menopause and how it affects your skin and so on. So we were able to place an unsexy message, an unsexy topic, in the amount of people that are actually living it and that really tried our product. So for me, that was a great hit, to be able to ignite those conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating, right? This the whole space I think of like influencer and like nano influencers is on fire. And I think your tagline, and correct me here, it's we spark the connection, you own the conversation, right?
Yes, yes,
So I
yes,
was
we're
gonna poke
dedicated.
what I wanted to poke you on is this movement towards individuals, right? So we're seeing it obviously with the rise of social media, and now a lot of the social platforms, like you don't connect as like a brand, but you connect as a person, right? We're seeing that more and more. Are you helping guide and coach your customers like to move beyond the veneer of like the corporate name and say, like John or Bob or Mary as CEO or as VP marketing, you have to be present. What are your thoughts on like getting the individuals behind the brands more out there?
I think that's what brands need to do. I think that especially in the last year, with all the great movement that happened on different topics, uh, people want to see who's behind the brand, and it plays a wonderful role in making the brand more human. And then it gives the choice to the consumer: am I aligned with that brand or not? And then you can't please anyone. But if you're being transparent and honest, and show your true colors, and you have the right ambassadors from the company to do so, another person agree on that. And also something that we see and that we do is that we activate the employees on the
Interesting.
employer brand or on the brand itself.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Yeah.
They're the best brand ambassadors.
Yeah. What do you think is happening in the space that's misunderstood, right? You said it's been around for a while, for actually much longer than I thought. Um, what do you think is the key trend right now that's not getting enough attention in that
Oh
space?
my god, it's all about the avatar. So there are those influencers that doesn't exist at all. They're just avatars, and they're getting sponsored by brands. They appear in one other platforms. Like there's two friends, and sometimes you see them together in picture as if they went to a concert together, but they don't exist. They're just virtual
That's
influencers.
fascinating. Yeah. So it's like it's kind of fascinating and scary at the same time.
Yes, and they're signing deals with Prada. Ikea just launched. I haven't got the time to look into the full article, but they use the virtual influencers for their last campaign. So these are made up. They're not even real people. I
Wow.
don't
Yeah.
know where my thoughts are on this right now. I'm still digesting. I've been watching it for a year now. It was something very small in Asia, but now it's coming broader. And I'm
Well, yeah.
wondering who's behind those avatars.
Yeah. Well, it makes me think to like that, I think it was in Japan, it was a few years ago, like a holographic concert with like, a band that's not
And
real, but, and you can say, well, if you draw out the natural extension, you could, like basically socially engineer of, a celebrity online, like it could happen. So
now I'll send you some people to follow on Instagram. They have an amazing life. Like I enjoy seeing them, and it always makes me laugh when they have their friends over that doesn't exist, but I follow on another account.
that is so fascinating. Maybe about the agency space. So, like, where do you think the agency space is going? Right, like, depending on what clickbait article you read, the agencies are dead and or whatever. But what do you think is the key? Let's say learning for like if you're a business owner in the agency space, what should you be watching out for, particularly if you zoom out like with a 5 or a 10 year time horizon?
I think that now it's a very interesting time because I feel like clients are like this. The decision cycle is very much more slower. A budget that are being freeze, and now they as soon as they're not freeze anymore, like there's a rush to get some services, and a lot of agency are starting to multi-service with different types of service. Bigger agencies are trying to do smaller agencies within themselves to kind of boutique-ish the feel of. So actually, it's a very interesting time where I think agency owners should focus on what they do. What do they do well, and what differentiate them from the others? I think that's key because there's so many players out there, and the lines are so fine between creative and influencer marketing, and then you have the media buying teams that are handling the influencer marketing budget because it's considered as paid, and then no, it should be handled by the PR because we're controlling the message, and there's a huge cacophony out there about all those things that we're part of. And what we decided to do is to focus on what we do well and what extends to what we're already doing well, that is making brands shine. And so far our decision has been that, and to focus on, we're in the business of relationships, so whether it's with media journalists, celebrities, influencer, and now real people, as I like to call them, the B Nation, the Nano, and influencer relationships with our client or supplier. So we're good at building great relationships. So that's where we're gonna stand for the moment.
That yeah, I think that's an amazing amazing comment. Vicky, I'm going to steal that, making brands shine, and I think great way to wrap up the conversation. Maybe a final question for you, Vicky, would be: is where if people want to connect or find more about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so there's my website for sure, bicom.ca, and I'm super active on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to add you to my network and also take virtual coffees. I love to meet new people. That's one of the things I enjoy the most.
Well, Vicky, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much, and yeah, hopefully we could do this again soon.
Amazing. Thank you so much. À bientôt.